Caitlin Clark could be refusing to use Indiana Fever Medicals.
Caitlin Clark just fired a brutal shot at the Indiana Fever medical team, and Stephanie White's statement only confirmed what many suspected.
Looks like she's in pain.
Following another injury nightmare, Caitlin Clark seems finished, relying on the Fever's doctors, and is choosing her own path. The team's medical crew just got ditched by their biggest star, and the consequences are intense. But before we dive into this chaos, comment below, do you think Caitlin was right to cut ties with the Fever doctors?
Clark has already been ruled out for tomorrow's game, Tuesday night, against New York in New York.
All right, folks. It looks like Caitlin Clark has finally reached her breaking point with the Indiana Fever's so-called medical team. And honestly, who could blame her? When your franchise player keeps getting injured every other week and the doctors are about as useful as a screen door on a submarine, it might be time to call in real help. Stephanie White just revealed something that confirms what anyone paying attention already knew. Clark has lost complete confidence in the Fever's medical staff and is now handling her recovery on her own terms. So let's unpack exactly how. We got here because the red flags are all over Stephanie White's latest remarks. When asked about Clark's current condition, White gave an answer that was subtle but incredibly revealing, and it might be the clearest indication yet of a serious breakdown behind the scenes.
I haven't seen since the game last night, but I think she's progressing. I think that we're continuing to address everything that needs to be addressed. She's gonna see some doctors and get some more tests run early in the week. I don't expect her to be available on Tuesday, so we're just going to continue to take it one day at a time and let her get her evaluations early this week, and then once we've done that, hopefully we'll have more of a clear line of what it looks like.
She mentioned Caitlin would be visiting doctors and undergoing additional tests early next week. Not our doctors or the team doctors, just some doctors. That phrasing says a lot. It doesn't sound like someone sticking with the team's medical crew. It sounds like someone who's done with them. That's the kind of wording you use when your star has quietly cut ties and is now out seeking medical care she actually trusts.
Look like two different doctors just told the shocking truth about Caitlin.
The timing couldn't be more telling, especially since this all followed multiple licensed medical professionals publicly questioning how the Fever have handled Caitlin Clark's health. When actual doctors are blasting your team's approach online, it's a massive red flag. Dr. Jesse Morse, a specialist in sports medicine, didn't hold back. He basically ripped into the Fever's staff, saying their methods are simply not sufficient. Not sort of okay, not needs some tweaks, just not enough. In medical terms, that's as brutal as it gets. And you don't have to look far for proof. Caitlin's injury timeline speaks volumes. She's been battling groin and quad problems since day one. First a left groin strain, then a repeat, then one on the right. She hasn't strung together 5 full games in a row all season every time. Something gives out again. This isn't your typical basketball wear and tear. It's either a case of horrible luck or downright mismanagement. And when the same injuries keep popping up, luck stops being a valid excuse. The recurring nature of Caitlin Clark's groin issues points to one thing. Her treatment and rehab just aren't tackling the root cause. Medical experts have been vocal about how groin strains are notoriously difficult to heal the right way. If you don't nail the recovery process, those injuries come back like clockwork. But here's where things really start to raise eyebrows. Several specialists have now said Caitlin likely needs cutting-edge treatments, stuff like stem cell injections and hyperbaric chamber therapy. We're not talking about routine procedures here. These advanced methods require a high level of expertise and specialized equipment. So, when Dr. Jesse Morse specifically mentioned targeted stem cell injections at tendon attachment sites, it was a subtle but scathing critique. That kind of precision treatment probably isn't happening in a standard locker room setup, especially not with the Fever's questionable medical history. From the start, Stephanie White's comments about Caitlin Clark's injuries have raised red flags. She keeps referring to Clark as day-to-day, even though medical professionals widely agree that groin strains typically require a week-to-week recovery timeline. So either White doesn't fully grasp what her own medical team is telling her, or the staff themselves are misdiagnosing or misunderstanding the situation. The communication around these injuries has been strange all along. Remember when White admitted she didn't even know about Caitlin's issue until the night before she was ruled out? That either points to a breakdown in internal communication or a deeper issue like the medical team having no real understanding of the injury itself. Now comes word that Caitlin is going to consult with outside doctors to get a better read on the situation. That move screams one thing: she's no longer confident in the care she's receiving and is actively seeking second, third, maybe even fourth opinions from true experts. The financial side of this is staggering. Caitlin Clark isn't just any player, she's the WNBA's biggest draw and a multi-million-dollar asset to the league and to the Indiana Fever, when a star like her keeps going down due to suspect medical handling. It's not just a health issue, it's a high-stakes business crisis. From Caitlin's point of view, it's a no-brainer. Caitlin Clark is only in her second year as a pro, yet she's already facing injury setbacks that appear avoidable with the right medical guidance. She's in the prime of her earning years, and naturally, she's going to pursue top-tier treatment, even if that means bypassing her own team's medical professionals. When you compare her situation to athletes in other major leagues, the contrast is glaring. In the NBA, it's standard for players to consult outside specialists when injuries linger. That this is considered rare in the WNBA reflects more poorly on the league's medical infrastructure than it does on Caitlin's judgment. The comparison circulating online to the Chicago Bulls is especially troubling. That franchise became infamous for mismanaging injuries, particularly in the case of Derrick Rose. If the Indiana Fever are drawing parallels to that situation, it paints a disturbing picture. What's even more alarming is how fast Caitlin's condition worsened. One week she looked sharp and healthy. The next, she's dealing with recurring groin and quad issues. That kind of rapid decline suggests a much deeper issue. Either her strength and conditioning regimen isn't tailored properly, or the team's diagnosis and treatment methods are failing her. Either way, the pattern is deeply concerning, both for Caitlin's future and for the Fever's credibility. Hearing that medical professionals are advising Caitlin Clark to possibly sit out for long stretches or risk ongoing damage to the same injuries has sent shockwaves through fans and insiders alike. That kind of medical guidance doesn't typically arise when a situation is being handled with precision and care. On top of that, Stephanie White's public comments about Caitlin's status have only added to the confusion. She continues to describe the situation as day-to-day while simultaneously admitting Caitlin likely won't be suiting up in the immediate future. Those conflicting messages don't align. The timing couldn't have been worse either. Caitlin's absence from the All-Star Game, the biggest event of the WNBA calendar, highlighted just how unprepared the team seemed to be. Either they failed to detect the severity of her condition or they weren't able to stop it from worsening. That's a major shortcoming. Fans haven't held back their frustration. Doubts are growing about whether the Fever are equipped to take care of their franchise star. Once supporters start losing faith in the team's medical oversight, the issue becomes much bigger than just what happens on the court. Even the media has taken notice. While most journalists are framing things carefully, it's not hard to read between the lines. When questions come up about Caitlin seeking second opinions outside the organization, they're not being asked out of casual curiosity. It's a signal that trust in the Fever's internal process is rapidly eroding. What makes this situation even more damaging is that it's playing out in plain view. In most major sports leagues, when a player looks for a second opinion or outside treatment, it happens discreetly and behind closed doors. The fact that Caitlin Clark's situation has become a public talking point signals that the trust between her and the Fever's medical staff may be fractured beyond repair. This could have ripple effects within the locker room, too. If your franchise star no longer believes in the team's healthcare, what kind of message does that send to her teammates? Will others start to second-guess the advice they're receiving? Will they start looking for external doctors as well? It's not just a team problem anymore, it's a league-wide concern. The WNBA cannot afford to see its biggest name constantly sidelined due to potential mishandling. Eventually, the league might have to intervene to ensure their top draw is getting the attention and care she deserves. This situation also exposes a major gap between the way stars are treated in the NBA versus the WNBA. Think about LeBron James. He has an entire staff dedicated to maintaining his body year-round. Or Steph Curry, who receives world-class treatment for every injury. Why should Caitlin settle for anything less just because she's in a different league? She's a generational player with unmatched marketability, ensuring her health isn't just a personal decision. It's a professional investment. From a business standpoint, it's the smartest move she can make. Her earning power is at its peak right now, but to sustain it over the next decade, she has to protect her body at all costs. Choosing the best medical support, even if it means bypassing the team doctors, is simply the reality of modern pro sports. If the team's medical support isn't meeting professional standards, then turning to outside specialists is simply a smart career move. Caitlin's decision could also set a powerful example for others in the WNBA. When the league's most recognizable player bypasses internal medical resources, it sends a loud message. Other athletes may feel empowered to do the same, which might ultimately push organizations to overhaul their medical departments. There's also a murky legal and financial layer to all of this. If Caitlin is receiving independent care, who's footing the bill? And in the event of a setback, who assumes liability? These are the complex ripple effects that come into play. When a franchise's medical team loses credibility, this move could also affect her bond with the franchise moving forward. Even if she recovers fully with help from outside professionals, the fact that she had to seek help elsewhere won't go unnoticed. That's a clear signal of lost trust in how the organization handles its players' health. The larger picture for the WNBA is even more concerning. If teams can't ensure proper medical treatment for elite talent, what does that say about the league's standards? How do you convince future stars to join or stay if they fear subpar medical attention? And from a growth standpoint, it's even more troubling. Development, both physical and skill-based, relies on consistent and trustworthy medical support. If players don't believe they're in good hands, it's not just their health that suffers, it's the future of the league. Caitlin's actions are a wake-up call that may end up reshaping how WNBA teams approach player wellness from the inside out. Caitlin is still in the early stages of her pro journey, and the way her injuries are managed now could shape her future on the court. The right care at this stage might be the deciding factor between a long, thriving career or one derailed by nagging health issues. For the Fever, this situation is quickly becoming a public relations disaster. Seeing your franchise player openly pursue treatment outside the organization isn't the headline any team wants. It puts a spotlight on possible flaws in the team's infrastructure and raises uncomfortable questions about their professionalism. From a coaching standpoint, there's reason for concern too. Stephanie White is working hard to mold this group into a real contender, but her efforts don't go far if her centerpiece player can't stay on the floor. If the team's medical personnel aren't providing what's needed, then turning to external resources starts to look like the only logical path forward. Fans are feeling the impact too. They pay to see Caitlin Clark perform, not to watch. Her sit-out due to injuries that could have been better managed. Every missed game takes a toll on attendance, ratings, and buzz around the franchise. The inability of the medical staff to preserve her health isn't just a sports issue, it's hurting the team's bottom line. This isn't just about one player. It's about the entire business model built around her presence. This situation could also strain Caitlin's standing with the league itself. The WNBA has a vested interest in keeping her on the court. She's a major reason for the recent surge in attention and popularity. If league officials start thinking that the Fever aren't doing enough to protect one of their biggest assets, it could stir some uncomfortable tension. But what's even more alarming is what this means down the road. If Caitlin already feels uneasy relying on the team's doctors for her current issues, how will she respond if she suffers a more serious injury in the future? Athletes already deal with the pressure of short careers, and the last thing they need is to second-guess the care they're receiving. This also sends a signal to others just entering the league. If the WNBA's most talked about rookie doesn't believe she's being properly treated, what kind of message does that send to other promising talents looking at their professional options? The comparison to other leagues is inevitable. The NBA, NFL, and MLB have all made strides in upgrading their medical protocols to better safeguard players' health. If the WNBA doesn't follow that path, it risks falling behind and alienating the very stars it's depending on to grow the sport. This could end up being the wake-up call the WNBA needs to upgrade its medical standards across the board. The push and pull between individual athletes and team priorities has always existed in pro sports. But when it comes to health and recovery, their goals should be completely in sync. The fact that they're clearly not aligned in this case points to deeper structural issues within the Fever's organization. Caitlin Clark choosing not to rely on the team's medical professionals might actually be the most crucial move she's made all year. When your body is your livelihood and the people assigned to protect it are falling short, you owe it to yourself to seek better care. She's not just playing smart basketball, she's making smart career choices. This whole situation opens up a huge conversation about trust, accountability, and player safety. What's your take on this unfolding medical controversy? Sound off in the comments. Smash that like button and subscribe for more WNBA drama and deep dives.